Mama, if you were to think about it, what emotional state do you feel like you most often live from? Have you noticed how often you find yourself numbing out or buffering just to survive the day? Maybe it's Netflix, scrolling socials, snacks, or overscheduling yourself until you can't breathe. Anything to escape the overwhelm and chaos of parenting a high needs child. But what if your actions could tell you everything that you need to know about your thoughts, your feelings, and even your true identity in the Messiah? Today, we're talking about the choices we make, the ones that keep us stuck, and the ones that keep us moving forward, so that you can step fully into being the mama that the Father created you to be. Mama, are you tired of meltdowns stealing the peace in your home? Welcome to Parenting Beyond Meltdowns. I'm Amanda, a Christian life coach and a mom of a strong-willed neurospicy teen. If you've tried everything from consequences, parenting books, crying out to the Father, and still feel like you're failing, you're not alone. Inside this podcast, we'll explore how faith, emotional regulation, and connection work together so that you can parent from a place of peace, even in the hardest moments. You don't have to hold it all together here. This is a safe space to lay it all down. Welcome. Before we dive in, let's look at a review from True Lou J. She says, I found this podcast easy to listen. Amanda speaks clearly from the heart, a heart that is intentionally listening to the Father's heart. Marriage and parenting are the surest sources of refinement and ministry. I love her process of asking questions to herself, claiming responsibility for her actions. We must all do this. And most importantly, we must all trust the Father in the difficulty. We are trying to raise our children well, and at the same time, Father is trying to raise us in our faith. He is able. We are limited. We all must grow together as parents. It is key that we abide in Him and let His fruit of the Spirit change us. Thank you, Amanda, for sharing your parental and faith walk with us. Thank you, True Lou J. I appreciate you leaving a review so much. If you would like me to read your review on the podcast, head over to Apple Podcasts, scroll to the bottom of the episodes where you'll see the words ratings and reviews. You can see that there are several reviews already there. Just click on 5 stars and then leave a written review. Leaving a review helps mamas just like you find this podcast. There was a season when I felt like life was running me instead of me showing up for it. I was constantly reacting to my child's behavior, my own emotions, and everything going on around me. It felt like I had no control. But when I began asking myself, how do I want to show up in this situation and this relationship, everything shifted. I realized that my actions weren't random. They were showing me exactly what I was thinking and feeling. Would you believe me if I told you that your child doesn't have to change for you to reclaim your joy and peace? You can choose actions that align with who the Father created you to be. And when you do, you start walking in freedom instead of staying stuck in cycles of guilt, shame, and numbing out. Today, we're going to be looking at 3 key points about what it looks like to take or not take action in our lives. We'll begin with talking about buffering and numbing, moving on to what it looks like when we're walking our true self versus false self, also known as the old man versus new, and then what it looks like to take massive action. Let's start with buffering and numbing. You might ask the question, what is buffering? Buffering is anything that we do to avoid a negative emotion. It might look like overworking, overeating, overdrinking, overspending, overscrolling. For me, it looks a lot like grabbing a sweet treat and binging my favorite show on Netflix. Or cleaning. I have been known to clean instead of doing other things that I know that I need to be doing at the time, all because I'm trying to avoid a certain emotion that it brings up in me that I'm not wanting to feel at that moment. And here's the thing, we all do it. You're not alone, and sometimes it's necessary. But when we buffer, we're escaping the truth of our lives. Instead of facing our actual feelings, we numb them with false pleasures. These give us a dopamine hit, but it's fleeting, and it can leave us feeling emptier than when we started. Our kids do this too. Many of the behaviors that drive us crazy are their way of chasing dopamine. The disadvantage to buffering is that it keeps us unconscious. We lose the ability to be aware of what's really happening in our hearts. The more we buffer, the more disconnected we become from our true desires. What we're really longing for is not another cookie or another purchase or another scroll through Instagram. What we're longing for is to face our feelings and let them move through us and find true pleasure, the steady joy of living into who the Father created us to be. When we allow our urges without acting on them, we develop emotional maturity. We learn that the urges don't control us, that we can let them be there without answering the call. Mama, this is a skill that you can practice. Instead of numbing, you can invite the negative emotion. You can become present with it and discover what's underneath. That's where you'll begin to see your true self more clearly. As I've been doing this work over the years, I want to add that we can vilify buffering. I tend to do it myself. Now that I'm aware of it, I'm like, oh, you're doing it again. And now that I notice it, I tend to should myself. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you should do this or you shouldn't do that. You should know better. And this also isn't helpful to us. There are times that we knowingly choose a piece of chocolate to scroll socials or to put that favorite TV show on. We don't have to demonize our actions. It's more about why are we choosing to eat the chocolate, scroll, or binge our favorite show? Are we trying to escape feeling a particular emotion? If we were to look at ourselves like a tea kettle, there are times when we need to let a little steam out so that we don't scream. And that's okay. I will admit there have been times that I have scrolled to release pressure that I was feeling. The dopamine hit helped. What I'm urging us to do is to first see and acknowledge where we are purposely choosing to not acknowledge and allow and process our emotions. Once we start to notice our go-to buffers, would it be possible for us to start processing some of those emotions instead of ignoring them? This touches on resisting that I mentioned earlier. What if the urge to scroll, shop, or grab the cookie, what if we just let it be there without judgment? What if we noticed and recognized that it's there? That I want to just go crawl in bed and turn on my favorite TV show because it's like a warm blanket that's wrapped around me. What if we just acknowledge that it's there and that it's okay that it's there while also not answering the urge? We just allow it to be there and then it'll pass. The more that we let the urges pass unmet, the fewer and far between they come. It's not about perfection. It's about being willing to be fully alive to our lives, being willing to be present with ourselves and willing to feel any emotion. When we begin to notice where we are buffering and numbing, it becomes a conscious choice, giving us the opportunity to become fully awake to our lives, using every part of it, the good and the bad, for our good and the good of our children. Point 2, let's dive into true self, false self. One might also call it the old man versus new man. In Ephesians 4:22 through 24, it says that you put off concerning your former conduct the old man, which grows corrupt according to deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man, which was created according to God, in true righteousness and holiness. In Colossians 3:9 through 10, it says, do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, who is renewed in knowledge according to the image of him who created him. And in Romans 6:6, it says, knowing this, that our old man was crucified with him, that the body of sin might be done away with, that we should no longer be slaves of sin. Verses are all talking to us about what it looks like to put on the new man. If you picture it like being baptized, that old man is washed away. And as humans, we sometimes step back into the old man. And I'm going to be referencing when I say new man, old man, think true self, false self, they go together. Who you believe you are becomes who you are. Your self-concept, the thoughts that you think about yourself, it shapes how you show up in life. The problem is most of us let society, parents, or even old wounds define who we are instead of letting the Father define us. The false self is defensive, fearful, and protective. It looks like ego, insecurity, judgment, resentment, or self-consciousness. It's the part of us that just wants to survive. The true self, on the other hand, is who the Father says we are. It's strong, resilient, compassionate, forgiving, loving, rooted in abundance. And I like to call abundance faith. So we're living rooted in faith, not in lack. When you live out of your false self or the old man, your actions will reflect fear. When you live from your true self, your new identity, your actions reflect love. So I want you to pause and ask, where have I been living lately? Am I showing up from my false self, the old man, or my true self, the new man? The more we practice living into our true identity, the more our actions will align with who He created us to be. And finally, point 3, what does it look like to take massive action? If you want to grow in processing emotions, here's the truth: take more action. When you set a goal or focus on a specific area of your life or relationship that you want to change and begin to move towards it, you will experience all of the emotions. Everything is going to come up: fear, doubt, excitement, failure, discomfort. And that's all a good thing. Taking massive action is about being all in, even when it's uncomfortable. You get to choose the hard, the discomfort that keeps you stuck, or the discomfort that moves you forward. Sometimes you'll buffer, sometimes you'll resist, sometimes you'll fail, and that's okay. Failure doesn't mean that something has gone wrong. It means you're in the arena. One of my absolute favorite quotes is by Teddy Roosevelt, and he says, "The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly." Mama, when you keep showing up, even when it's messy, you're retraining your brain to believe that you can. Every time you take action, you're creating evidence that you're capable. If you were to think about the kind of mom that you want to be, walking in your true God-given identity, here are some questions to ask yourself. What am I believing about myself? What am I believing about my child? What emotional state do I want to live from? What are the micro actions that I can take each day to show up in love? So today I want to ask you, what would it look like to take massive action towards laying down the old man and walking in your new man, your true identity given to you by the Father? Even when you fail, even when it feels hard, keep going. Our faith anchor today is Romans 12:2. I bring this one up a lot, but it's one of our anchor verses. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. This is what action looks like in faith. Choosing not to buffer, not to settle for false identity or the counterfeit, not to sit still in fear, but to take steps in love, courage, and purpose. Today we talked about 3 ways that your actions shape your life: through buffering and numbing, living from true self or the new man, and taking massive action even when it feels uncomfortable. Mama, your child doesn't need you to be perfect. They need you to keep showing up, to renew your thoughts, process your emotions, and take action from love, not fear. That's how you become the anchor for them in their storms of life. The challenge this week is I want you to identify an area of your life where you've been buffering. Instead of numbing, pause and allow the feeling to be there. And then choose one small action this week that moves you closer to your true self and the mama that the Father created you to be. Deciding what emotional state you want to live from most often. If you want to go deeper into encouragement like this, then join my Insiders list. It's where I share faith-filled reminders, emotional regulation tips, and real-life tools to help you stay anchored in who God says you are. The link is in today's show notes. Hey, sweet mama, I hope you loved today's episode. Can you do me a favor? If this episode spoke to your heart, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mama in your life who needs to know they are not alone? Also, would you leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts for me? It blesses my heart to know that this show is giving you hope in hard moments. All right, I'm off to grab some protein because love and grace flows easier when you're not just running on fumes and coffee. I'll meet you back here next week for another honest and hope-filled conversation. In the meantime, Mama, stay rooted in faith and anchored in love.